Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel All About BI. This is going to be a simple session on copy activity properties. Okay, so why do we need to worry about the properties that I'm going to talk about? See, for copy activity, whenever we create a source or sink pointing to any data source, mostly if it is pointing to a delimited file, right, that too separated by comma, we have to take care of certain properties. Which properties do I mean is, one is escape character, second one is code character. So what is the significance of each of this field? Why do we have to worry about it? That's what I'm going to tell in today's session. Okay, because most of the time we get a data in such a way that the data itself has some delimiters. Okay, for example, I have a text file or I have a table in which I'm getting an address column or some description column. In that address column, there is a very high possibility that we get comma in between. Okay, similarly in a description column, for example, it can be a product description, which will take 2 or 3 sentences, and each sentence might have one or more commas in it. Okay, and if the file itself is delimited by comma, like how I am showing you here, all the fields are separated by comma. For example, serial number, name and address, the fields are separated by comma. So the column delimiter here is comma, and one of the fields called address is having one more or one or more commas in it. How do we deal with that? Okay, there are two possible options. One is enclose the column which is bringing the column delimiter in double quotes or single quotes. This is option 1. Second is escape the comma which is coming in between the text. Okay, both these ways will work out. If we are not handling this either way mentioned here, right, what would happen is, whenever we are reading this file, right, this file has 3 columns. Okay, as per the comma separation, if you look at, serial number is first column, name is second column, address is third column. And if we do not enclose the data which has column delimiter in it in a single quote or double quote, or we are not escaping it, how would it handle the data is, 1 will become the first column, Subha will become the second column, 88 Ramnagar will become the third column value, and Kerala will become the fourth column value. So the total number of column itself is 3, but the number of values that each row brings is more than the column number of columns we have mentioned. Okay, so it is mandatory for us to handle such kind of data. That is what I am going to tell in today's session. In my case, I am connecting to a Synapse, SQL table. Okay, Azure SQL table. My table has a product description column which is bringing me comma in between. If you look here, there is a comma, there is a comma here, like that. This is a sample data. Okay, the table has lot many rows. All the rows in the description column brings one or more comma. Okay, and what we are going to do is, we are going to read the data as such, and we are going to create a delimited file separated by comma. Columns are separated by comma. So what we would have to do is, if you read this particular row, right, we should be writing this in one column, the whole thing in another column, this row guide in third column, and modified it in fourth column. In between, even if you find a comma, it shouldn't be split into multiple columns, just like how I mentioned now. Okay, so if we ignore this comma in between, how it will handle is, 8 will become first column, suitable for any type of writing will become second column value, on or off road fits the budget, whole thing will become the third column, this will come to fourth column, this will come to fifth column. So kind of a data movement happens, or we are not handling the schema properly here. So how do we have to handle this kind of scenario? I want to read the table as such and write it as such without distorting the column structure. Okay, that's what I'm going to tell you today. Alright, so copy source, I'm leaving it as such. I'm not touching anything here. All are left as the default values. Okay, and I'm going to sync now. In the sync, if you create a new delimited text data set, right, by default, if you look at the properties, it will be in such a way that it handles this condition properly. Okay, this is my container name. I will say write the whole content to output folder and give name proper formatted data.csv. Okay, and I say first was header. Right now we don't have to worry about the schema because we are just going to write it to a file. I go to advanced properties, which just opens me the data set. If you look here, column delimiter by default will be comma. Okay, because most of the times we get CSV files only column separated by comma. In case your columns are separated by tab space or a pipe, you can choose accordingly. Okay, so by default when you create a new data set pointing to the delimited text, right, the comma will be the column delimiter and row delimiter, how each row is separated, either by carriage return or by a new line character or by both. Okay, so only these three characters can go inside this row delimiter. Again, these are all default values, we are not touching now. And the most important property is escape character. Okay, this is what I mentioned as slash here. If I mention a slash before the comma, okay, the comma is in between the text, the whole thing is considered to be the single cell value, and if the cell value contains one or more comma, I have to prefix the comma, extra commas by a escape character. Okay, so what it will make is, it will make the data set know that whenever you are encountering a comma in between in this particular column, you can ignore that and you can consider the whole text as single text or single cell text. Okay, so this escape character does that. Okay, so by default it gives a slash. Okay, it considers slash as the escape character. So when it will make differences, you are writing this particular value to a file. Okay, for example, the whole thing I have written it into 123.txt or CSV. Okay, and if I am going to read this file from the data lake storage or blob storage, if I mention the escape character as slash, then it will clearly understand that whenever it is encountering a slash, it is just escaping the comma which is present next to it. Okay, so it will understand that whole thing will be considered as a single column value. Okay, and if you have one more column like maybe age, if it is like this, right, in before this comma there will not be any escape character. What does that mean, or what does that indicate is, this comma is not within the text but it is a column delimiter. So it will consider 1 as first column, Subha as second column, 88 Ramnagar Kerala as third column, and 26 as fourth column. So that is where this escape character plays a vital role. Okay, and then I'm seeing the code character here. Okay, when do we use the code character is, for example, in the same case, if we don't want to prefix a escape character, we just want to enclose the whole thing in a double quote. Okay, this is also an option, as I mentioned before. Okay, so if this is my requirement, I have to use double quote and put the description inside the double quote so that I need not worry how much ever comma comes in between. Okay, so that is where code character plays a vital role. If you have mentioned code character, escape character will not come into picture. In the sense, already you would have enclosed the whole text inside double quotes, so there is no need for us to use a escape character. So I will run this pipeline and show you how it works. Instead of talking, if you look at the results, you will be able to understand it better. So right now what I am doing, I am just reading description column with comma in between, and I am writing to a delimited text with the default properties set. Okay, so we are not disturbing the default properties, and we will look at the output, how it is treated by the copy activity. So the container name is az function output and proper formatted data, right? So if I go here, I see the file here. Okay. If you look at the data, this description column alone will be coming in double quote. So it understands that comma being the column delimiter, if it comes in any of the column values, that column has to be brought inside double quote. That is what it understands, and then it encloses the whole text inside double quotes. And as you can see, even if we find a comma in between, it's not a big deal because whole thing is enclosed in double quotes. And whenever we are giving this file to some other downstream system or any other copy activity, it will properly read the data because the text is enclosed in a double quote. Okay, it's not distorted. Either we have to do this or we have to append a slash in between the intermediate commas. Okay, there are only two ways, and right now I'm not doing anything, I'm leaving it here. So what we understand by this is, if you are leaving the dataset properties as such, it is handling or it is reading and writing properly. Okay, in case we do not do that, what I will do is, I will not mention the code character now, but I will mention the slash as the escape character. So what it is going to do, I am running the pipeline again. In this case, what it will do is, it will not enclose the description column in double quote, but whenever the description column has comma in between, it will just prefix a slash. It will just escape that comma. Okay, either way the file will become a properly formatted file. I will tell you how it becomes a properly formatted file, but before that let us see how it has created the file. See here, there is no double quotes to the description column, but whenever you are seeing a comma in between, it is prefixing a slash. That is, it is escaping the in between comma. Okay, this is how we have to understand. Alright, so what if we have to read such a file? I have been provided with this kind of file, wherein in one particular column I have slash in between. I have to ignore that and consider the whole text as single column text. Okay, how am I going to do that? I am going to use another copy activity, and then I am going to mention the source that we already used. I mean, we can use the same sync. I'll just check. No, not this one. Delimited text to. Okay, so what I'm doing, wherever I'm writing here, whatever is the sync here, that is the source here. Okay, I'm going to read the file that is recently created, but in my source I have to tell that my escape character is backslash. Okay, so this is the same dataset that we used in the sync. Okay, so the same dataset can be used here, and then I'm just making sure the escape character mentioned is slash. If we ignore that, then it's not going to read the file properly. Okay, for now I will not change this. We have just told the dataset that I have a dataset, I have some data, in that slash is the escape character. Whenever you see slash, then it means that it is escaping the comma which is next to it. Okay, that is what it is intimating the copy activity. Alright, so I am taking that and I am putting it into some other file system or some other container. Okay, it is reading from Azure function container and it is copying the file to Azure file system container in the output folder. Okay, so what I'm doing, I'm just prefixing slash before every intermediate comma and writing it to one container, and I'm copying that file from that container and putting it to another container. Okay, this is what I'm doing now. This will be very useful when you are reading such file and writing it to a table where the schema is fixed. Okay, in that case, right, if the schema is fixed in the next to copy activities sync, for example, we are writing or we are reading the file from the CSV and writing to a table wherein we have just 4 columns. and if we properly format the data, 4 columns will be intact. If we do not handle the escape character, code character and all, number of columns will become more and it will throw error. I will show you example for that as well. Let it run. Okay, it has copied to the another container. Okay, it is reading as such. It has copied as such. There is no change at all. However, it was in the other container. It has copied the same way. Okay, because we used the same data set. No changes. Now, what I have to do is, if I go and change something in the source of the second copy data. So, here I am not mentioning my escape character properly. I will just say no escape character. Okay. So, let me see what happens. This copy activity I will delete for now. Okay. So, what this copy activity is doing is, it has missed to mention that there is no escape character. I mean slash is the escape character. We have not mentioned that here. So, what it will do is, it will not mind slash. Whenever it encounters comma in between, it will treat the next value as the new column value. Okay, let me see if it runs. So, when I missed to mention the proper escape character here and I ran the copy activity, it is not doing anything special. It just copies the file from one location to another, but still it fails. Okay, because what it says is, delimited text more columns than defined. According to the header, it has to read 3 columns. Okay, but according to the data, since we have missed out to mention that there is a slash in between, it is considering every comma as a new column value. So, the number of columns that are coming in rows are more than the defined header columns. Okay, that is why it is very important for us to handle this kind of scenario. Okay, so I think I have covered whatever I wanted to cover. So, escape character is used to escape any delimiter, escape any character that is the column delimiter. Okay, if you have comma here and in one of your columns you have comma in between, make sure you are escaping it, or make sure you are quoting it in the double quotes. Okay, so this is a simple thing that we need to keep in mind to make the delimited text files work properly. Okay, if we miss any of this, then it's going to cause wrong manipulation of data and wrong interpretation of data, and we are going to arrive at an improper structure at the end of the day. Okay, that's what I had for this session. Sorry that I dragged it little bit more. I wasn't sure how to make it crisp than this. If you have any questions further, feel free to post it in the comment section, and I would like to thank you for watching the videos all through and providing in your comments and questions. Thanks a lot for watching. Keep supporting.